In the last video I showed you how to start the document and kind of a very brief overview of the different options that you have. One thing I also did was show you how to switch from Essentials to Essentials Classic. And that's just going to be helpful because we have all these tools and toolbars that are a little more in front of us. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start and I'm going to work on my maps project. Okay. And generally when I do something like this, I like to have something to reference. And so we could have a drawing that you've done and you've taken a picture of. For me, I'm going to actually take a screenshot of the map of Seattle, and I'm going to kind of just overlay some of my different things on there. So I've taken my snip and sketch, and apparently if I hit copy and then come over here and hit Control V, what will happen is it actually shows up. So if you cannot do that, if that doesn't work, or if you have that picture somehow saved in another way, the other option is to actually go to File and Place, and you can find an image somewhere. Let's say you might even have it in your graphics folder, and you could actually use that right there and place an image that way. Okay, but in this case I'm going to actually just use that copy and paste from that screenshot. It's going to work for us. It's going to be a high enough resolution and everything. So there we go, we've got our map of Seattle. Now whenever I kind of click and drag around, I can still move this, I can still resize it. Kind of the same rules apply, where if I am holding shift, it will actually stay in proportion. If I do not hold shift, it will not stay in proportion. So I'm going to hold shift, keep it in proportion, keep it right about here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my layers panel, and right here I've got my layer 1. It's blue, so whatever object I have is outlined in blue and is going to have this box show up right here. If I were to have another object, let's say this ellipse right here, that's going to show up as well, but now that this is selected using my select tool, it's going to show up with this. You can actually switch your selection by clicking on this box right here. Another thing you can do is you can actually hide things, so sometimes that's a great thing to use. So if you're trying to kind of see the before and after, you can do that. And one last thing is we can actually lock it, and so now this is locked into place. I can't move that around. So if I'm clicking and trying to move things, that's not going to actually move. Now what I want to do is actually just have this be on its own layer, and then I'm going to put a new layer and put all of the drawings in my map is actually going to go on top of this. And so I'm going to look here for the icon, and so this is kind of the universal create new option. So we're in the layer panel, so it's going to be creating a new layer, but in this case it's this little, looks like a post-it note with a little corner up. So I'm going to actually click on that, and layer 2, now it's going to be in red, it's up here, and that ellipse that I drew, I'm going to reuse that. So I'm actually going, I can click and drag this and move it to layer 2, and I've got this little arrow that's going to show me I can expand, I can contract. We're going to get probably many different objects on here. It can be helpful to not have to look at all of those all the time. I can also, if I want to, lock an entire layer. So say there's numerous things, I can hit this lock right here. It's going to lock everything on that layer. Okay, so now I've got my ellipse, it's visible, and it's on layer 2. That's good. My layer 1 is locked. I don't have to mess with it. Now I can start with my drawing. So I'm going to actually resize this. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller right here, and I'm going to put it kind of in the vicinity of Ballard right here. And if I need to, I'm going to hit Control plus, and with that selected, it's actually going to zoom in on it, and Control minus zooms out. Another great keyboard shortcut is if you hit the plus sign or the space bar, and you can click and drag and kind of pan around. You can use your scroll wheel to go up and down. You can actually hold control while scrolling to go left and right. But that space bar and clicking and dragging is very helpful for that panning tool. So zooming in, control plus, I can see, I happen to know that Ballard is straight up from the bridge, so that's good. And it's up here, so that's, maybe it's up here, I don't know. So we can get it kind of in the right vicinity, but as we saw in the video, oh, that's a little too north right there. We actually, the geography isn't super important. We just, for me, I want it kind of general. With this right now, I have a circle that is a white fill with no outline. And I'm actually going to change that. So I'm going to change that to red. So Ballard's got red and black for the colors. So I'm going to do the outline for in red, and then I'm going to do the fill. I'm going to switch to blue or to black. And one thing that's kind of cool is if you want more options, you can actually hold shift and then click on this drop down menu, and you're going to be able to get whatever colors of the rainbow you want. You can kind of click around and see if you want a light blue, if you want a green, if you want a yellow, whatever you want is all good. I'm going to actually switch to my option right here, which is black. We've got white, and then we also have none, so that means that would be clear, and we're going to use that fairly frequently later on. So there we go. We've changed the color of it. I'm going to make it just ever so slightly smaller. I'm going to add in a few different spots right there. There's my Ballard High School right there. I would like this outline to be a little bit more clear, and so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make sure that's selected still and change the outline, which we call the stroke. And so I'll change that to look something like that. That looks pretty good for me. So now I've got the beginning of my map. I've got my first station. I might even decide that I'm going to copy it. So I hit Control C, zoom out and pan on down. And then I'm going to put another important place. And so especially in these times, I'm going to put my place of residence. I live way down here in West Seattle, so I'm going to put that there. You're probably not going to be as far south, so your map might be a little more central and you might actually zoom in on a different spot. But right now we've got those two spots right there. I can continue adding those stations in. In the next video, what I'm going to do is kind of talk you through the pen tool on how to create very nice, very even lines and curves and all of those different routes that we might add to our map.